Welcome grade 12 students! For your practical research 2, this video will focus on lesson 1, Nature of Inquiry and Research. So if in your practical research 1, you had your qualitative research, this time in your practical research 2, you will have your quantitative research. So first, let us define what is quantitative research. Quantitative research is an objective, systematic, empirical investigation of observable phenomena through the use of computational techniques. So if in qualitative research you made use of words in analyzing results, quantitative research is concerned with use of numbers and their relationship with events. So what are the characteristics of quantitative research? 1. A quantitative research is objective, meaning these researches deal with facts and no rooms for biases. Quantitative research clearly defines research questions, uses structured research instruments, and because of this, data obtained are easy to organize and analyze. 4. Quantitative research obtains numerical data. If qual is for words, quanti is for numbers. Quantitative research also uses large sample sizes. In qualitative research, you can have even one participant, 2, 3, or a small group of participants. In quanti, the bigger the number of respondents or sample size, the bigger, the smaller the statistical error, the higher the credibility of your research. Quantitative research can also be replicated. They can be replicated because there is, number 1, maturity when it comes to data. Variables may also be modified. Replication is allowed because it can strengthen research or validate results of previous researches. And number 7, quantitative research can project future outcomes. So the data gathered can be used or extrapolated to project trends in a particular field or area. So what are the strengths of quantitative research? Number 1, quantitative research is objective and is easily interpreted. As we said, quantitative research is based on facts and uses numbers. The use of statistics in analysis makes quantitative research easier. Number 2, quantitative research facilitates sophisticated analysis and allows understanding of huge amount of vital characteristics of data. Again, the use of statistics allows us to use and understand large amount of data. Characteristic number 3, numerical data can be analyzed in a quick and easy way. The easy analysis of data allows a researcher to do and finish a quantitative research easily and faster. And number 4, quantitative researches are replicable. So as I said, replication is allowed because it can strengthen previous researches or verify results of previous researches or add relevant or significant findings about certain topics. Let's now have the weaknesses of quantitative researches. Number 1, quantitative research requires a large number of respondents. This is quite exhausting on the part of the researcher. Number 2, it is also costly. Because of large sample, expenses will be higher. 3, some contextual factors to help interpret the results or explain variations are usually ignored. Because most instruments in quantitative researches are structured, responses are limited to options made available by the researchers and in the instruments. Respondents do not have the opportunity to explain their choice. Number 4, main information are difficult to gather using structured instruments, specifically on some sensitive issues. As I said, responses are limited. Some relevant issues may not be addressed. And number 5, data from questionnaires may be incomplete or inaccurate. So same reason, because instruments usually are structured, data may possibly be incomplete. Let's now go to kinds of quantitative research. If you will look at some sources, books, internet, search engines in the internet, you will see several kinds of quantitative researches given. But in fact, there are only four. They are compressed to four types of quantitative research. Let's have number one. The descriptive research seeks to describe current status of an identical variable. It is designed to provide systematic information about a certain phenomenon and no manipulation of variables or search for cause and effect related to the phenomenon. For example, you just want to make a description or research of how second grade students spend their time during vacation summer. So you will just collect data. So it may be in the form of survey that you will collect data, instruments, or observations, but the data is provided in the numeric form. Another example, let's say you just want to describe tobacco use or tobacco use habits of teenagers or among smokers in a particular area or barangay, or how parents feel about 12-month school year, so one long school year with no vacation. Or you want to describe the attitudes of scientists regarding global warming, or extent to which teenagers use math manipulative. So these are some examples of descriptive research. So again, descriptive research just seeks to describe, to provide information about a certain phenomenon. Number two, correlational research. Correlational researches attempt to determine the extent of a relationship between two or more variables using statistical data. These are designed to recognize trends and patterns in data and do not go far into investigating causes or patterns. For example, you want to study about the relationship between intelligence and self-esteem. Does intelligence have something to do with the self-esteem of, let's say, students? So you will study the relationship between the two. Or is there a significant relationship between diet and anxiety? You can also do correlational research. Or aptitude test and success in physics, are they related? Or relationship between types of activities used in math class and the student's achievement, or the relationship between smoking and lung disease. So again, this type of research only seeks to establish determine relationship between or among identified variables. This does not seek to find out causes or effects, no? Third is the causal comparative or quasi-experimental research. So this kind of research attempts to establish cause and effect relationships among variables, unlike the correlational research. So in this type of research, the researcher cannot randomly select subjects or groups. So the groups or subjects must be taken from the pre-identified, pre-existing groups or sets of respondents or subjects. Some examples of researches that may be done under this type of research are, let's say you want to determine the effect of taking vitamins on students' school absenteeism, or the effect of gender on algebra achievement. So you can see here, you cannot control the variable, no? There is no control of certain variables. See another example, part-time employment on the achievement of high school students. Is there an effect of part-time employment on the achievement level of high school students? Let's say they are working students. Does it have any impact on their achievement? So you can do this type of research. Another is magnet school participation on students' attitude, or the effect of age on lung capacity. For example, is older age is affecting more the lung capacity of a person. And the fourth type, we have the experimental research. Sometimes it is called through experimentation. but it is not always through experimental research. No? It makes use of scientific method to establish cause and effect relationship among a group of variables that make up a study. And it involves manipulation of the independent variable and to determine the effect of this independent variable on the dependent variable. So if in causal comparative, there is no manipulation of variable. So in this type of research, there is manipulation of an independent variable and determine its effect on several dependent variables. So if in the third type, there is no random selection of subjects or groups. In this type of research, subjects may be randomly selected or assigned. Examples are, so it's like titles are similar to titles in under the third type of research, but again the selection of respondents here, the manipulation of an independent variable, what makes this type of research different from the third type. So examples are, if you want to determine the effect of a new treatment plan on breast cancer, or the effect of positive reinforcement on attitude towards school, or teaching with cooperative group strategy approach on students' achievement, or personalized instruction on computational skill. These were taken from the source www.wssu.edu.nc. So how is quantitative research important to some fields? So I listed down here some fields or areas where quantitative research is applicable or useful. So in education, teachers may identify problems that deteriorate quality of education and come up with reforms which are more contextualized, localized, and responsive to the needs of the learners. So in business, quantitative research can help design new product or service to guarantee sufficient distribution of products or to help for procedure and strategy. In the field of science, there's a lot. In medicine, in health, in plants, fertilizers, agriculture, and many others. So in science, quantitative research may be useful to obtain sufficient information about disease trends and risk factors, especially in this time of pandemic. Scientific research plays an important role. Health interventions, patterns of care, costs, and use. Or ultimately, they aim for life longevity. In engineering, quantitative research can provide designs which are creative and beautiful and give more convenience and efficiency, utilizing modern technology to adapt to ever-changing society, especially now that technology is really getting more and more advanced. Materials and procedures to strengthen structural materials to withstand calamities and disasters. Or in social science, for public service, for example, to provide solutions to social problems directly felt by people, or understanding social interactions to form new theories to contribute to societal development and welfare. So that's how quantitative research is important to some identified field as I had presented here. So let's try some practices. So I have here 10 statements, descriptions, for you to tell whether true or false. So let's start with number 1. Research is advantageous not only to students but to life as a whole. Of course, it's true. 2, research can be done even informally. Of course, yes. Even when you are just taking a break from a work or sitting down on your couch or sleeping, you can do research. No? It may be done anytime, anywhere. Number 3, research requires no step-by-step procedure for as long as results are obtained. This is false. All researches require step-by-step procedure. 4, empirical data should be gathered and analyzed before arriving at a conclusion. Yes, this is true. The conclusion must be based on data gathered. 5, correlational research is also called ex post facto. This is false. 6, because correlational research does not determine causes for certain phenomenon. 6, a variable may not vary in a study. A variable may not vary in... It may vary, so this is false. 7, the dependent variable is the variable predicted. Yes, the dependent variable is the variable that is predicted. 8, a fewer number of respondents is needed in a study to minimize the error. No, as I said, the larger the number of respondents, the smaller the error. So to minimize the error, you increase your number of respondents. Number 9, survey research is also called a descriptive research. Yes. And number 10, in a quantitative research, respondents are given very limited opportunity to elaborate their responses. Yes, this is true. As I said, responses of the respondents to your queries or inquiries are limited because they are usually given structured instruments where they will just select their choices. They do not have the opportunity to explain their choice. No? So that's one limitation of quantitative research. Let's now move on to variable. What is a variable? In doing quantitative researches, it is important to identify your variables. So this is the central concept in a quantitative research. It is a measurable characteristic that changes in value. So there is value assigned to the variable. It may vary from one group to another or with the same person over time. It is also anything that may assume varied numerical or categorical values. And on that note, let's have some examples. So some examples of variables are sex, as male or female, educational attainment, socioeconomic status, and many others. We have types of data. So you have identified this, studied this in your statistics and probability. We have continuous and discrete data. So under the so the difference between continuous and discrete, continuous is measurement, no? Is associated with measurement. Discrete is associated with count. Okay, so continuous variable or data can be obtained using measuring devices. For example, you want to measure the height, or you want to measure the temperature. Each is determined as years go by. So it means that some continuous variable may be determined even without using the measuring devices. But in making use of measuring devices, most likely you will come up with a continuous type of data. So they can take infinite number or the value that can occur within a population. We have two subtypes, the interval and ratio. So interval gives meaning to difference between two values. For example, is there any difference between grade of 75% of a student or 90 of a certain student? Definitely. Ratio, on the other hand, has clear definition of 0. For example, in a quiz, with every possibility that a student will get 0, so that the data that can be obtained from that method is a ratio data. Another type is the discrete. So as I said, continuous is for measurement, discrete is for count. This is also known as categorical or classificatory data. It has limited number of distinct values and cannot be divided into fractions. So it means that, for example, the count of persons in a room. You cannot have 10.5 people in a room, or you cannot have 2.5 pieces of slippers. So these numbers or data fall under discrete or count numbers. For example, sex, so we have male and female. How many male, how many female? Blood type, how many are blood type A, B, C, D, and so on. Number of children, you cannot have 1.5 children in a family. So it's a discrete data. We have two subtypes, the nominal and the ordinal. Nominal, when there is no quantitative value. So we can assign categorical values for male, female, small, big, or the number of appliances you have at home. So those are nominal data. Ordinal data, when data can be ranked. For example, elementary, secondary, tertiary, or grade 7, grade 8, grade 9, grade 10, or teacher 1, teacher 2, teacher 3. When the data can be ranked, that falls under ordinal data. Let's go to the type of variables. We have two types of variables, the dependent and independent variable. Independent variable is the cause variable. So it is the one responsible for the conditions that act on something else to bring about changes. On the other hand, dependent variable is the outcome variable, the result or effect of the changes brought about by the independent variable. Let's have some examples. So first, let's classify the following. Again, going back, we will have examples for you to easily distinguish between independent and dependent variable. Examples are useful to distinguish better the dependent and independent variable. But first, let's determine the following, categorize the following as interval, nominal, ratio, or ordinal. Let's start with number 1. Military title can be a lower or higher title, so it is an ordinal data. 2. Temperature in degrees Celsius, it can be continuous, but it has a clear definition of 0 and therefore ratio. 3. Birthplace, where, so it is a categorical data and therefore nominal. 4. Year level, we have grade level 7, 8, 9, 10, so it is another ordinal. Favorite type of music, this is just nominal. You like jazz, you like pop, you like heavy metal music, and so on. So it's nominal data. 6, clothing such as hat, shirt, shoes, it's another nominal. 7, a score in a 5-item quiz in math, you can have 0 score, so it is another ratio. Feeling for today, you're happy, you're sad, so this is nominal. Means of transportation in school, are you taking tricycle, motorcycle, jeepney, bus, so this is another categorical, so nominal data. And number 10, internet use at home, so it can be number of hours, so it can be interval. Or are you using it in the morning, in the afternoon, or in the evening? It can be nominal data. So depending on how you will treat the data. Let's have the following to determine the dependent and independent variable. So we have title number 1, organizational commitment and teaching performance of elementary teachers in the district of Pililia. So we have here two variables. Two variables, the organizational commitment and teaching performance. So which is the cause? Which causes the other? So you determine which causes the other to change and which is caused by the other to be changed. So in this case, we are after the level of performance of teaching performance of teachers. So the teaching performance of teachers depends on the organizational commitment. For example, are they committed to their teaching? Are other teachers less committed to their teaching? So it may affect the organizational commitment may affect the teaching performance. So what affects which? Which affects which? So in this case, which affects is the organizational commitment. So that one that affects the other is the independent variable. What is being affected? The teaching performance. Therefore, the teaching performance is the dependent variable because the teaching performance depends on the organizational commitment. The stronger the commitment, the better the teaching performance. So the teaching performance is dependent on the organizational commitment. So the organizational commitment is the independent variable and the teaching performance is the dependent variable. Another one. So let's identify the two variables here. We have the conceptual, interpersonal, and technical skills, and the other one operational efficiency. So what are we measuring here? What are we after? The efficiency. If in number 1 we are after the performance of the teachers, in number 2 we are after the efficiency of the operation. So to what is the operational efficiency dependent on? It is on the conceptual, interpersonal, and technical skills. Therefore, operational efficiency is the dependent variable because it is dependent on the other variable, which is the conceptual, interpersonal, and technical skills. Therefore, this conceptual, interpersonal, and technical skills is the independent variable. Okay? So that's how we identify the dependent and independent variable in number 2. Let's have the third one. So I identified here two variables, the mathematics achievement and the conceptualized and localized materials. So what are we after here? What are we measuring here? The mathematics achievement. So mathematics achievement is dependent on. So it depends on the achievement depends on the conceptualized and localized materials. So the mathematics achievement is the dependent variable and the conceptualized and localized materials are the independent variables. Number 4, we have the blended learning as the independent variable and the achievement of students as the dependent variable. The achievement depends on the blended learning. So blended learning is the independent, student achievement is the dependent variable. And number 5, we have reading comprehension and exposing students in classical music. So will there be effect of exposing students in classical music on their reading comprehension? So what we want to check whether it will change is the reading comprehension. And what will cause the change? The exposition of students to classical music. So exposing students in classical music is the independent variable and reading comprehension is the dependent variable. So I hope you get the difference between dependent variable and independent variable with this simple activity. So for your homework, you look for one good sample of quantitative research online. And then, after reading the sample, consider your field or interest. List down 3 topics. It may be on school performance, domestic problems, environmental awareness. But again, you can focus on your field or interest for your 3 topics. And then after choosing one, from your 3 topics, you choose one which for you is most doable. So you assume that that's the study or research that you will be doing for a semester for your PR2. So after choosing one, you can start looking for at least 10 researches related to your chosen topic for a research work.